Hello everyone, today I will be building World of Warships 1 through 50 scale HMS St. Vincent. The first step of building, I made this meme. The St. Vincent's kind of goofy with her design. Okay, actually the first step. I go on World of Warships ship tool and I sort out the ships to find St. Vincent, her length. So I find that she is 280 meters long, pretty long. And then I run a quick calculation, dividing that by 350, getting a very nice 80 centimeters for the model length. Then, with that length, I'm able to design the things on shape, specifically the gun turrets. So here, with the gun turrets, I'm cutting them out on a glow forge, the one at my school. I actually cut these out all the way back in April, because I had to get a lot of stuff done before the school year was out, so I prepared some extra prints. So here you can see that I'm cutting out the secondary battery, all the little 6-inch guns, and also their pedestals. Here I'm cutting out the main 18-inch 457mm turrets. They look pretty cool with like how rounded they are. The little holes for magnets allow me to rotate them. Then I design and put them out all together, and that's how they would look. After that, I designed the hull. The hull is completely laser cut this time, so I don't use any more cardboard. This allows the model to be much more strong, but also heavier. So here, I'm first cutting out the details, and the little marks are to tell me where I should put all the elements. Then it's all cut out of a single piece of wood. But the hull has to be cut out in two pieces because it's too long to fit on the 20-inch Glowforge cutting tray. So that's the upper hull with all the details. I do this 3 times for all the hulls. After that is all done, I then cut out the superstructure, at least a part of it. I didn't design the whole thing in a single go, so I only cut the after superstructure out, but I cut the after one out because it has a bunch of curves on it for the secondary emplacements, so it'd be too hard to scratch build that completely. Here's all the parts stacked together. Now I go to construction of the hull. So I still use cardboard on this model. I'm cutting out the strips as I always do, but they're only for the edges, and I only use them for the edges because it's too hard to use wood for the edges. So cardboard can do an angle, which is what I need. The little wooden strips here are for the nose because the nose portions, it's a little bit thin, and I have to make sure that everything aligns well. I then fold the pieces and make sure they look right, and then put them on. So let's talk a bit more about the St. Vincent. So St. Vincent, she's a British battlecruiser from World of Warships. She gets dead struck all the time. She shows any broadside. But let's talk about the history. So the G3 and N3 class battlecruisers, they were designed for the Royal Navy in the 1920s, the early 1920s. They looked vastly different from their predecessors, the Revenge class battleships, mostly because due to the new school of thought and how they would be designed. Specifically, they had a much more interesting layout. No guns backwards anymore. They had a turret in the center, and this was designed because they wanted the maximum protection for the center gun, and it would also allow the heavy barbettes to be concentrated in a single location, cutting down on the stresses of the hull and allowing for much thicker armor applications. However, it does look a bit weird, and you don't have a gun that's able to fire backwards. However, I honestly feel like if you have to fire backwards, you have bigger problems to deal with. So now I'm cutting out the pieces for the hull, and I also paint the bottom. So I'm painting that part of that's the middle section being painted right now, just to make sure that when it's stuck on, I don't have to paint it again, and the boot stripe won't be painted red. It's black right now. So all these ships would have carried torpedoes, but the G3 and the N3 class battleships, forgot to make a distinction, the G3 were the battle cruisers, and they were equipped with 16.5-inch guns, so they shared the same layout with the N3 class battleships, and the N3 class battleships had 18-inch guns instead, and these large guns were put in the same layout, and they were developed earlier and used on HMS Furious, but one of the issues with this gun was that it would cause rivets to fall off every time it was fired. So it was pretty experimental, I guess. And another one of the interesting things about this ship was the use of secondaries in turret mounts, because beforehand the secondaries were all casemates, and the casemates would be flooded out whenever there was high seas. But now this time they had turrets, and the turrets allowed the secondaries to fire. And the interesting thing about these secondaries is the 8 16-inch gun broadsides, so 16 total, is pretty much what another light cruiser might have as its main battery. So these large fast battleship or battlecruiser, whatever you want to call them, the G3 and the N3s, if they want to do an engagement and they don't want to waste their main battery guns, they'll use the secondaries to do it. The secondaries is pretty much just a little light cruiser strapped to their sides, which is honestly pretty impressive. So the main use of these ships was they would be sent off to far off colonial stations to act as like outposts of the British Empire, because not only did they have really good range, they had air conditioning too, and this allowed them to go really far, and likely they would have been used in the Far East, so they probably would have been placed in Singapore or Sri Lanka, then Ceylon, or they were maybe Australia that way. So yeah, they would have been used to fight off the Japanese during World War II if they had been built. Yeah, so now I'm gluing the lower hull down onto the area with the boot stripe. So I use a bit of super glue, but I do retouch the boot stripe later because the super glue does leave it a bit ugly, but I'm able to retouch it. So you can see that the hull is made in two pieces. Like there's a forward piece and the backward piece, and I use that big old wood slab there to connect the two together. And it's actually a pretty strong connection. So now I paint the upper deck, and even though I'm painting it over, the details, the laser cut, it's engraved on there, so it won't be covered up by the paint, and it'll just tell me where I need to put everything. So the G3 and N3s, kind of that's pretty much all I have to talk about them. Yeah, they would have been really big, and they would have been counted as fast battleships. Like the G3s as battlecruisers, they would have had 4 propellers, and the N3s would have had 2, like the Nelsons. But the G3s, they're called battlecruisers, but their armor was at 356 millimeters. That's 14 inches main armor belt. That would have made them a fast battleship, but the British called them battlecruisers. The N3s, on the other hand, they would have had the same armor, just more guns, and because of their lack of a set of propellers, they would have been only to be able to make 23 knots. So a coincidence that's they'll be able to match the speed of the American South Dakota 1920 class, but alas, they were also canceled. So yeah, these ships, while as impressive as they were not built because of the Washington Naval Treaty that canceled them. However, if they had been built, the impact of these ships on the World War II Royal Navy would have been very, very interesting. How the Royal Navy would, all the permutations that go with it, and how the Royal Navy may have designed their own ships with the influence of these would have been truly astonishing. The other ships that were canceled by the Washington Naval Treaty, you got the South Dakotas of the U.S., the Amagi, Tosa, and Ki of Japan. You got the N3 and G3s. So now I use this as a 3D reference to make sure everything is scaled right. And I use World of Warships because I couldn't find a Sketchfab model of the St. Vincent. So I just pan around it, make sure everything looks right. Yeah, that's it. So here I'm adding the details to the hull, and those are the portholes. I still need to clear cut some of the stuff here because I used a bit of super glue on it. Also, I painted the deck, added the forward AA guns. Progress is looking good. This is the after superstructure that's been completed, painted, I'm gonna glue it on. So here's the secondary battery that's been installed. You got the 6-inch guns right here, and you got the 4.5 QF guns here, and you got all the like, AA guns over here. Yeah, that's the back superstructure. So here I've got the forward turret and the back turret done. I still haven't added the super firing turret. Turrets can rotate. They got the little magnets as they always do on the bottom, so they stick on, they can turn. And then I got the little doors for all the stuff, all the superstructure in the back. Gotta add some little bit more stuff here that I didn't laser cut out, so I'll have to scratch build that. Yep. The details in the after superstructure, and then I add the funnel base for the forward funnel and the back turret. I got the chains installed, and then I'm adding this forward barbette for the B turret right here. The back here, I pretty much finished the after superstructure. Just add more bit detail in the rigging, that'll be all. So here I've installed the forward barbette and the B turret and the secondary battery in the front, and also the funnels in the back. Those are made of super glue caps, and then yeah, now I'm building the superstructure. So now I've painted the hull, this section of it at least, this dark blue. I based this off of a model of King George V from Tamiya. They had a armor belt that was dark blue, so I decided to do that. Plus it looks pretty cool. So yeah, I've got the lower tier superstructure done, and then turrets, I'm painting them right now. Yeah, so now once I'm finished with the painting, I can start unmasking this stuff. And honestly, I really enjoy unmasking because you'll be able to see like how everything looks, and it's a very straight line. And that's pretty much where her armor belt is, which is pretty cool. Here I'm making the superstructure. You got the top piece, and then I stick with all the rangefinders and their pedestals on there, and then I stick it and paint it onto the main superstructure. And then here are all the damage control hoses that I glue onto all the pieces. This is the completed model. Just finished it a few minutes ago. And I got the turrets, they can turn as always. Pretty nice. I did this special blue camouflage, based it off the Tamiya model kits. I think it's a pretty cool model, and it looks pretty nice. So I'll give you a good up in details. So you get the front, forward turret, superstructure, middle turret, and then the two funnels. Those are super glue caps, little boats in the back, and then the secondary foreman and all the way in the back. It's pretty nice. Like and subscribe, share this video.